and welcome to the weekly public stream. This is something that anyone may watch, but only members may comment. New members like Ernie, the Daily Learner. And today Ernie's going to learn some comic book recommendations. I'm going to tell you about some comics that I recommend that you pick up. I'm going to walk you through the whole process, why I decided to do this episode today, why I'm recommending current comics instead of trade comics. And then, of course, as always, for the final 10 minutes of the stream, you may ask me anything that you would like. But while we wait for everybody to join in, let's do our regular, where are you watching from? Where's everybody watching from today? I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. And also the stream is early today. Usually it's 4, but I have a screening tonight for Onward, and the embargo lifts on Friday. So I have to get ready to go to that. So that's just the scheduling there. Let's see here. Juan is in Los Angeles. Steven just got back from Los Angeles. I enjoyed your tweets. Let's see here. Eric's in Chicago. I do buy from Comixology, Mika. I buy everything from Comixology. Oh yeah, I was a little bit late because I was getting images. I had to get the covers for all these I'm going to recommend because comics are a visual medium. Austin's watching from Louisiana, getting ready for work. Glenn's in cold Dublin. Lady Jennifer Snow, very formal there, is in Cleveland, Ohio. Carrie's also in Chicago, eating delicious soup. Let's see here. Jay Garcia is in the lunchroom at the office in Mexico. Love it. Truman's in the Great White North. Oh, it's cold in Minneapolis, says Marvel Fan 81. Craig Brown is in hello from the UK. Oh, you paused The Stranger. I'm enjoying The Stranger very much. It's excellent. Anime Lover is in the Netherlands. Hey Liam, dropping by from Newcastle, UK, currently baking a Harry Potter cake. Oh, for your goddaughter's 4th birthday. That's very kind of you. CJ sneaking into the stream today from Maryland in a conference. Oh, that's very cool. Let's see here. Alex is in Florida. Caleb is creating a website for class. Ivan says it's rainy here in Monterrey, Mexico. Miss A is also in Chicago eating comfort food. Hey, Nail. Let's see. It's beautiful in New York City today. Nathan, thanks for asking. Jonathan's in North Carolina eating Chipotle. Oh, that sounds delicious. Oh, Jason also now buys comics digitally. Yeah, I love it. It used to be like I would always be nervous about if I could get to the comic book store on Wednesday. Now, like 9 a.m. hits, you just pick them up immediately and they're yours. It's great. I love it. Hey, Raphael, thanks for joining. And Grish is in bed in India. Oh, good evening. That's great. I love having such a global conversation. All right, so why am I doing this? Well, we've been talking comic books the past few days, so they've been on my mind, and I've been going through my collection. And then also it was a holiday weekend, so I was able to catch up on some of the comics that I hadn't been reading lately. Like, for instance, I had not bought X-Force. I was only through X-Force issue 3, and then the other day, 7 came out, and I was like, oh my God, I missed a bunch of issues. So I purchased them, and I was like, wow, this is a really, really good series. So I was like, there's actually I think overall the quality of comics have had a difficult problem because of the success of movies and television. I think, of course, obviously, the studios are like, whoa, these are now very valuable to us. We don't necessarily want people outside of Hollywood, let's say, dictating what's going to happen to these characters. I think I can understand how Hollywood feels, but this is the same thinking that shut down Vertigo as a publisher because they said we don't want to give ownership or even partial ownership to the creators, so everybody ran to Image. Before Image Comics, Vertigo, which was a shingle at DC, used to be the place for great intellectual comics. It was amazing. Karen Berger was the editor-in-chief. She ran it. It was wonderful. But I think it was the 1-2 punch of Image coming up in the first place. Although Image is tough because Image, you have to have your own money to be able to publish. They have a good advertising machine and stuff, but it's not like being in a major publisher. When you were at Vertigo handled all that for you. It was really nice. Vertigo was like the Fox Searchlight or the Searchlight of 20th Century Fox or 20th Century. But now it doesn't exist anymore. So I think a lot of the really bold, exciting things have gone away. unfortunate. I'm sorry. I just was to make sure I got a text. I wanted to make sure it wasn't anything too important. Okay. So yeah, it's good. It can wait till after the stream. So anyway, I feel like the really amazing stories that you're seeing adapted right now aren't coming anymore. So there's not new stories for the future. I mean, you're going to reach a point where the movies are going to be like, oh my gosh, there's no great new stories for us to adapt. I mean, Jonathan Hickman's X-Men, I think, which we're going to discuss as a bit of an exception to that rule. But for the most part, I don't see a lot of great new stories coming out of the comics, which worries me, because I don't know if Hollywood understands them to the same degree that the people do who are like, it's a very different skill set. Writing a book is different than writing a comic book, which is different than writing a TV show, which is different than writing a movie. You can read Alan Moore's really good thing about talking about writing for comics versus other mediums. Each one is a different skill set. It's very difficult to go between them. So anyway, a lot of times, some of you ask me, what comics should we read? So I usually am like, some people, you go like, I want to get into comics. I'm really interested in getting into comics. And so of course I can recommend famous trade comics to read. But I can sense when I make those recommendations that people are like, well, that's nice and all, but I don't want to read a comic from 20, 30 years ago. I want to read stuff that's coming out now, right? There's something about getting something that just was published. It's very exciting. So I was like, today I'm going to recommend current comics that are like going on now, so you can feel like you're part of the comic book conversation today. And if you're a new reader, I would honestly recommend that you just dive in. I think people feel like, well, where should I start? It's impossible to find a place to start because there's just too many comics. You can always go back at your leisure and read trade paperbacks to kind of fill in the spaces and to get and to read the really famous ones. But you don't want to read every Batman comic ever published. It's a waste of your time, and I actually, wouldn't recommend it. So anyway, that's what I would recommend. Now I haven't included what went on sale today, like the new Wolverine. They just launched a new Wolverine title. It's got artwork by Adam Kubert, who I think most famously drew Wolverine's origin story called Origin. It's so good. Kubert's an amazing artist, and that's probably the main reason I'm interested in picking that up. But I haven't read it yet, so I can't recommend stuff like that. But I'm going to recommend comics overall I'm going to recommend comics to you that you can start and not, take forever to catch up. So get your pen and paper or your phone out or your whatever you want to write this stuff on down, and then we'll go through this. Okay, so first up, Batman is in the news. A lot of people are interested in this new Robert Pattinson movie. There's a lot of headlines about Ben Affleck as he promotes The Way Back. So I was like, well, is there a Batman title you can read? Tom King's Batman, which was a number of issues, the whole Batman Catwoman, marriage that didn't work out situation, but now they kind of worked out as a couple. Very dramatic run, very controversial. Tom King made people so angry that he got kicked off the book early. And so he's getting a new Batman Catwoman book apparently, but I'll read it because it's going to apparently have amazing artwork. So it's Clay Mann. So that's the thing. Comics, it's funny, as a writer who's written comics, I have to admit that they live or die by their artwork. And even if a comic is really well written and it has bad art, you can't really read it. It's hard. But if a comic's not well written but it has amazing art, you can get through it. So I will read Tom King's Batcat if Clay Mann is drawing it. But anyway, since he was kicked off, they're like, how can we get people more interested in this Batman title? Because a lot of people stopped reading Tom King's Batman. I read it all the way through because it's Batman. And I do like the Batman Catwoman dynamic. And it has good art. So I kept reading it anyway. I read Harley Quinn, and I kind of regret that I read Harley Quinn for so long, because I feel that by purchasing that book, I made it seem like that Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Conner run was good, and so they could base the new movie off of it. It's, I think a lot of people buy Harley Quinn just because it's Harley Quinn, and sends the wrong message to DC. So anyway, this is the new Batman title. It's only 4 issues in, this story. This is one that just came out today. If you want to start this new story, it's on Batman number 86, all right? But that cover is not as exciting, so I included this cover today. And as you can see, they're getting all the rogues together. It's very much like The Long Halloween or Dark Victory. It's a clever play, and I think it ties into the fact that not only does it get Harley Quinn in the book and Joker, who of course are very much in the news right now thanks to their movies, but also, it gets people excited for the Batman, which is going to have a lot of, villains in it in the same way. CJ, I'm glad you're enjoying today's kind of Stacktastic episode. I used to do a comic book series here on YouTube called Stacktastic. It's on a channel called Think About the Ink, where I recommended many trades if you want to go and look at it. So this is 89. This is the issue that just came out today. But if you want to start this arc, it's 86. James Tynion IV is writing this. I'm not a huge fan of James Tynion IV, to be honest with you. I believe Scott Snyder is the one who brought him up through the ranks. I think he's only okay as a writer, but so far it's hard to mess up a bunch of Batman rogues fighting Batman. And also Guillaume March, who really rose to fame doing Gotham City Sirens, that comic when it was out. He's the artist on it, and he's very good. So I read it a lot for the art, even though I don't think it's the best written. All right, so that's the first comic that I would recommend. All right, so again, Batman, start with number 86. You're only, as you can see, on 89 this week. All right, next up, so bye Batman. Next up, so I want to recommend some current things. So XMen. Now, Jonathan Hickman recently relaunched the X-Men, and I would go and read his limited series, which did that. It's incredible. It's very new. It's very dynamic. It really sets the X-Men up in a way that you could see them existing in the MCU with the Avengers. It puts them in a really interesting position. However, it's been difficult to maintain that level of quality as the title has to go on, month to month. Like that was a mini series, which was really good, but now you have to have continuing series, and they had to expand to multiple titles. And a lot of them, I have to be honest with you, are pretty bad, but there are 3 that I think are worth your time. Now there's XMen, which has been very good. Jonathan Hickman is writing this main title, continuing his own story. There are various artists, some really good ones like Leniel Francis Yu, and then some others that I'm not very familiar, who are new. They're getting a lot of new artists in comics, actually, from Europe a lot. But the artwork is consistent on this title. I like it very much. So this is a good title. Jonathan Hickman's still doing very interesting things with the X-Men, and I would definitely recommend picking this up. Like, he just did something really interesting with Mystique in the last issue. I think they're only on 7. I think all the X-Men books are on their 7th issue, so it's not too far to pick up. I would agree, Grismeyer, Excalibur is unreadable, and it has Rogue in it, who I love, so I'm very upset about that. But X-Men, I definitely think this is worth your time. Now, as I said, 3 X-Men books. So the next one is Marauders. I really like Marauders. It's a really crazy setup. Basically, Kitty Pryde, I don't want to give too much away, but Kitty Pryde is basically working with the Hellfire Club. I like the Hellfire Club. Emma Frost is a character in this book. I'm a big Emma Frost fan. It's very good. This is written by Jerry Dugan. I'm not a big Jerry Dugan fan either, but he's doing a good job here. Matteo Loli does the artwork, interiors. Russell Donnerman, who is my artist on Superbia, he's really talented. He actually does the covers for this book. I think this is very good. I think it's very, very good, actually. So I would recommend this. All right, so that's Marauders. Also, I believe that's the first issue, just so you can see it, but they are on number 7. Next up, X-Force. As I said, hey, Great Stone Planet. As I said, X-Force is pretty darn good. I'm surprised. This is written by Benjamin Percy, who I also think is hit or miss as a writer, but here he's doing a great job. And Joshua Cassera does the artwork. They've had a different artist on one of the last few issues, but overall, who was not quite as good. But overall, I think the art on this is also excellent. This has, of course, Wolverine. What is he not in, right? Domino, who has a very interesting storyline going on here. Forge, who I like what they're doing with him quite a bit. Quentin Quire, who, Grant Morrison created him, but they've never really decided what to do with him. But I think they're actually he's starting to I think, get a place for himself. Beast is I don't know what's going on with Beast here. I'm like, these are some strong choices, Benjamin Percy. And then as for Sage, I had to look up Sage. I was like, what does she do again as a mutant? Chris Claremont was using her in a horribly drawn Salvador LaRocca comic that I was like, this is really bad. Remember, he had some mutant with gold wings called Lifeguard. I was like, this is so bad. But this is good, and Sage is like a living computer, basically. She has a pretty big, she takes up a lot of real estate in the titles, but she doesn't really have any lines. Okay, so, but she's piqued my curiosity. I always enjoy a new mutant if they do a good job with them. So those are the 3 X-Men titles. Oh, Dallas loves Sage. So these are the X-Men titles I would recommend. X-Men, Marauders, and X-Force. everything. And then hopefully Wolverine's good today. All right, so those are the X-Men titles that I would recommend to you. All right, hold on. Now next up, Thor. Thor's movies are now very popular. Thor just came off of an amazing multiple year run with Jason Aaron, like almost I think maybe almost a decade, very long run, or at least it felt like a decade, but in a good way. He wrote the title. Kieran Gillen I think wrote it before that when it was Kid Loki, but anyway, Jason Aaron wrote this title for a very long time, but recently it relaunched with it continued with Donny Cates, and it's a little bit of a relaunch because they've changed a lot. But Donny Cates is writing this, who I also have never been a big fan of before, but he is on fire with this new book. And Nick Klein does the interiors with Olivier Coipel doing the covers. Olivier Coipel is an amazing artist, did the artwork on House of M. Doesn't really do a lot of interiors anymore, but Nick Klein does a pretty darn good job. The interiors on this book are excellent. This has stuff going on with Galactus. Beta Ray Bill showed up. It's really good. This is only on issue 3, by the way, so you can just jump right in on this. It's really, really good. Love this Thor. Thor has been very good for quite some time. No, I don't like Valkyrie Jane Foster Mika. I dropped it. I thought it was really poorly done. It became too like Jane Foster complains about stuff. All right. Daredevil. Now this is funny. This is how I got into Daredevil. So I've read Daredevil sporadically, depending on the creative team, for a long time. But recently, I've been usually on Wednesdays. I didn't do it today because I'm doing the stream, but I'll usually share screen grabs of what I'm reading. And a couple of times, people are like, "Oh, I can't believe she's not reading Daredevil." And I was like, "All right, let's see what's going on over there." And I was like, "Oh, Chip Zdarsky. I really like Chip Zdarsky. He wrote a Star-Lord comic that was so good, Star-Lord, with Chris Anka on the artwork." We're going to be talking about Chris Anka a lot today. I actually just tweeted out an image of him that he did this morning with Aquaman. He's an incredibly strong artist. Also, on a side note, Chip Zdarsky is a member of the LGBT community, and he specializes in drawing guys, which I think is very interesting. All right, so Daredevil. This is written by Chip Zdarsky with Jorge Fomez as the artist. It's so amazing. It starts with issue here 11. I think now it's like a couple issues into this arc, but issue 11, Daredevil issue 11, 2019, is when you should start reading this. It's so good. And not only is it exploring what's going on with Daredevil, but also with Wilson Fisk, a very interesting storyline with that character, and Elektra is in on this as well. It's very, very good. So I highly recommend Daredevil. All right, so next up, I wanted to get a female writer in here. Kelly Thompson's writing a lot of books right now. I think Kelly Thompson's a very talented writer, but she has such a distinct voice as a writer, and that's all she can do. She can't write, she has no variation on her writing style. So all of her characters sound the same. So like she's writing Captain Marvel right now, and it just sounds like her Kate Bishop. But her Kate Bishop Hawkeye series was amazing, and I highly recommend that you go pick that up. But it's not currently running, so it's not actually being recommended here. All right, so Runaways, though. This is an absolutely amazing book. It's on issue 30 right now, so you got a lot of trades that you can just dig in on. You would just absolutely love it. This is this is the cover of the first trade. Runaways, which of course was started by Brian K. Vaughan. It was recently a show on Hulu. I think it still is, but nobody's watching it. It's not very good. And they tried to continue this team after Brian K. Vaughan left it, and they couldn't find a writer to live up to the quality of what Brian K. Vaughan did. Until now. Rainbow Rowell, by the way, is a author, she writes books, but she is a rare case where she's done a really good job transitioning to comics. Charles, the artist did change. Chris Anka was the artist for quite some time, but now they have a new artist, Andre Genoult, and I think he's very good in that he's very similar to Chris Anka's artwork, but I still think the art's very good. I'm still really loving this show. It's amazing. This comic. I can't recommend it highly enough. Whenever it comes out, it's like my first or second read of the day. Genesis, can you pick up Runaways without reading all the previous issues? Yeah, totally. This new series, you can totally, it picks up at a really good point, so you can totally do that. All right, next up, I would also recommend the new Hawkeye book, which is only on issue 3. It's a mini-series, Hawkeye Freefall, great art, really funny. Matthew Rosenberg is writing this. It's kind of a follow-up to his Hawkeye Winter Soldier mini-series that he did about a year or so ago which featured Black Widow also, and that was amazing. I highly recommend that if you're looking for something like a contained story to read, but this is also extremely good. Matt Rosenberg is a very strong writer, and Otto Schmidt is doing the art on this. It's excellent, very, very good. Hawkeye, it's too bad Jeremy Renner is kind of being weird with his personal life, because Hawkeye has such untapped potential, and he's slowing it down. All right, then I have two other recommendations quickly. Black Cat. This has not been that great. It's okay, but it's not amazing. It's okay. But this last issue, number 9, was really, really good. It's a new storyline with Chris Anka as the artist. He draws a very short Wolverine, which I love. Wolverine's guest starring. And it's written by Jed McKay, and this was a good issue. So you can start right here. You can start with issue 9, and it's going to be at least a 2-issue arc, but I would definitely pick this up. I think it's very good. And then finally, I have to recommend Miles Morales' Spider-Man. This is currently on issue 15. This is the very first issue, but it's 15 issues in. Saladin Ahmed. This is a great book because it has creators of color working on it. Saladin Ahmed gives us a very authentic modern feel. He's fantastic. He's also writing Ms. Marvel right now, but I don't think he's doing quite as good a job on there. But it's really excellent. This is not only is Saladin Ahmed given an authenticity, but so does Javier Garrón, the artist. His Miles Morales is just so real, and I think, and just so fantastic. It really feels like a book. It feels like Black Panther, created by the community, but yet still accessible to everyone. And I think that's really fantastic. I think it's so good. If you like Joseph, if you liked Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, this is a great book for you. And you can start right on issue 1. It's no problem. It's great. All right, so those are the comics that I would recommend. It's 3:28. We can talk until 3:38, and then I must get going. Mika, I am reading Joker Killer Smile. I'm surprised that there was another issue. I was like, it kind of felt like it ended, but I'm going to watch it. I'm continuing to read it. CJ, he does, Miles does look like you, actually. That's funny. Dallas says, what do people mean when they call a comic book a trade? Okay, well, a trade paperback is collecting a run of comics that made up a single story. Like a graphic novel is written specifically to be published as like a little mini book, right? But a trade paperback, a trade is like, oh, I'm not reading this monthly. So that's the slang. Someone says, do you read monthly or do you read the trades? And they go, well, I read trades, which means you don't like to read a story month to month in pieces. You like to wait until the trades come out every couple of months, like every 6 months or so, and then you just read the whole story at once. That's what a trade is. Emax says, can you talk more about how you buy comics and are there any subscription services? Yes, I buy comics on Comixology. It's great. Unfortunately, they're not cheaper because they're digital. They just have a higher price point return. But I think Comixology is still a great way to purchase comics. And also, you have them forever. You don't have to worry about storing them. They're all in the cloud, and you can get them back anytime that you want. Comixology does have its own subscription service, but it doesn't cover everything. I believe Marvel has a subscription service. Part of the problems with subscription services, though, is that they aren't always up to date. They make you wait a little bit to get the comic. So that's why I don't use them. But if you don't mind waiting a little bit, you could probably save, I think, a lot of money for that reason. Badara, Nebula I wasn't loving. He started out with her as a villain, and I was like, she's a good guy now in the movies. I don't want to read villainous Nebula. I only read it halfway, and I was like, yeah. And so I'll let you know once I read the rest of it if it's any good. Mika, I have seen the Matrix 4 set footage, but there's some people jumping off a building. Let's see here. Josh says, do you like other comic book publishers that are not Marvel or DC? I read a lot of old Archie comics. I think those are great. I think those are fun. I like reading the Bettys and Veronicas, even though they're very dated. I do like Image Comics, but they're not publishing too much stuff that I'm reading right now. And I occasionally will, like for instance, Boom Studios not only put out my comic book, but just finished putting out an amazing comic called Giant Days. that unfortunately ended recently. I think it's going to come back for specials now and then, but that was a great book, and that I loved that. Hey, Two Brothers Comics. Nathan says, what do comic book writers make at Marvel and DC? Well, it depends on what you're working on. If you're writing a big title and you're a big name writer, you make obviously a lot more than someone who's just starting out, or if you're working on a smaller book that doesn't sell very well. The question is, can you personally move the book? That makes a difference. Also, a lot of times, writers in particular, it's very time sensitive to even write a comic, much less draw one. But a lot of times, artists can only really work at one comic book at a time, so their page rate is a little bit higher, but writers will work on multiple books at once to get their salaries up there. Oh, thanks for the recommendation, Ali. I've been seeing that Kylo Ren's been selling out. Thanks for the recommendations, Two Brothers Comics. Hey, Byron. Good luck having a good time at work. JC says, how are you feeling about Knives Out 2? You don't seem to love the original, but you seem to be rooting for the sequel. Yeah, I always want a fun movie. I didn't totally love how the first one worked out, but I still thought that it was a really fun fall Thanksgiving-y movie. So I'm up for them trying to do it again. And I think it's fun to get an entirely new cast, an entirely new mystery. I think only Daniel Craig will return. And so I think that sounds like a good formula to me. I see, Elliot, Mika, you guys asked me about Mulan, PG-13. I don't really think it makes a difference at all. Anything, as long as it's not rated R, I don't think it makes any difference as to who's going to go. I mean, anyone who feels like their kids feels their kids shouldn't see a PG-13 movie probably wasn't going to take their kids to see Mulan anyway. Mateus, I'm trying to read the Shazam series. I have the issues. I haven't gotten to reading them yet. I feel like it's a little all over the place. It started out strong, but now it's too many characters. Juan, I would think that Shazam 2 would introduce the other realms, but I don't know if they will. It seems like a really huge expense, and I don't know how Black Adam would fit into that, especially because the kind of movie that Dwayne Johnson seems to be making for his solo film. We'll see. Dancing Dog says, is Zatanna as powerful as Wanda? I don't think really ever seen Zatanna push herself to the limit like that, like Wanda totally rewriting all of reality. But if I had to decide right now, I would say that Wanda is more powerful. Oh, thanks, JC. I appreciate that. Nathan Hill says, any tea today? I'm going to make a video this week about the Hulks. It seems that all the Hulks are going to be in the Hulk, Disney Plus series, which I don't know how they're going to be able to afford that. We'll see. I have some thoughts which I'll share in the video. Adam, I thought Doomsday Clock, again, started out strong, great art. I'm a big Gary Frank fan, but I felt like it didn't know where it was going. It missed some publishing dates. It just took too long and was enough of a payoff. Oh, bye, Dallas. I'm glad you enjoyed the episode on today's stream. Barbie says, thoughts on HBO shutting the door on Watchmen Season 2. Would you want one? Only if the people who made the first show would want to do it. Hey, Matt, I wouldn't want them I wouldn't want to force it to them. So I feel like that just didn't work out, which is sad because it was so strong. Lucas, they just started an XMen Fantastic Four series, which so far I think is medium, but you can pick that up. I think it's very good. I mean, it seems promising. Jason, I think all the new Harley comic books are really bad. Like, really bad. She's a very hard character to write. Like, I bought the Harley Poison Ivy series, and it was just so bad. Elliot says, should Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman have goggles or have eye holes? Goggles, 100%. John says, I was wondering who are the nicest celebrities you've ever interviewed? I think I remember you mentioning Colin Farrell. Yes, the nicest celebrities I've ever interviewed were Colin Farrell and Jude Law. They were just a delight, and they were so kind and just really wonderful to interact with. We have 1 more minute. Thanks, Ernie. One, I will definitely review Umbrella Academy Season 2. I reviewed the first season. I really loved it, and I'm excited for the second one. Oh, Cam Creative says Umbrella Academy Season 2 trailer either tomorrow or Friday. Thanks for the heads up. I'll be covering that and breaking it down for sure. Lauren, they kind of did goggles with Anne Hathaway. Hugh Jackman was really nice. Adam DeSabato says, what are your thoughts on the new Batman the Animated Series comic that has been announced? I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. I don't know. I mean, part of me thinks maybe they're going to bring back and make new episodes of the animated series for HBO Max. But I feel like the Harley Quinn animated series did such a great job raising the bar. I don't know if I'd want to go back to the Batman the Animated Series. That seems like a little bit of a step back. I think I really like the Harley Quinn animated series. I'd like to see more from that team exploring other DC characters. All right, it's 3:38. I must get ready for the screening. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me on today's live stream. It was a delight. Tomorrow, members, if you're a member, there's another stream for members. It's private. There's for members. Only 1 stream a week is for everyone. Otherwise, it's just for members, and tomorrow's will be at 4 p.m. All right, everybody, have a lovely afternoon. Bye. Thanks for joining me. Goodbye. Bye-bye.